Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Nancy. I'm working as assistant professor at CTU University from the School of Humanities and Physical Education in the Department of English. So today I'm presenting on the topic Engendering Gender Equity. As the topic itself is describing gender equity means gender identity, the discrimination of gender biased. So why the gender discrimination is there? Why the gender bias is there? Why a female, especially female, is facing gender discrimination in our society? So what is the root cause of this? So we always say that man is superior and a female is inferior. So who has created these prejudices and who has created this thing that a man is strong and women is weak? So we first of all, we need to understand the root cause. Why the convention and why the society and why the tradition have created all these things for women and men. Because a woman is not aware of this thing that she is a woman, but society makes a woman because when a male and a female born, they don't know they are male or female, but society becomes a man and a female. So today we'll talk about and we'll discuss and I'll talk about on this topic that is engendering gender equity. So this is the outline of this lecture. So gender bias is a feature of human societies having such deep roots that sometimes it becomes quite difficult to trace the extent of their depth. Earlier on, it was considered that the cause of one's gender is one's body or biological structure. Male, human and non-human beings were considered to be superior physical or intellectual or female. So this trend to measure the fitness in biological term later came to be known as biological determinism. The proponents of biological determinism believe that as far as the physical strength is concerned, men are more powerful than women. So biological difference is not defining that male is powerful and women is inferior. So in such discourse, male members are given the central subject position, whereas women were pushed away to the margin as other. So the various feminist movements were started in order to bring about the other half of the population in the central position. From the key demands of equality and justice, these feminist movements go forward to seek special status for women that they can create their own identity, such as distancing themselves from the hetero-patriarchal ideology, which has a strong grasp over linguistic, philosophical and physiological areas. So gender primer objects are that understand the difference between gender and sex, consider how gender role impact participation, appreciation and appreciate diversity among women, identity discrimination and how to address it. So what are the gender prime topics are gender and sex, gender roles, diversity among women and women's issue identifying gender discrimination. So first of all, we need to understand what is sex and what is gender. So gender and sex, two terms are different, and sex is a biological term that is classifying, and that is the classification based on reproductive organs and functions. So when we talk about the gender is socially determined, constructed, perception and expectations, acceptable roles and attitudes, learned behavior, changes over time, varies by culture, ethnicity, religion, etc. So what is gender? Why it is socially determined? Why it is socially constructed? So we can say it's a totally man-made things, and perceptions, expectations, acceptables, roles, attitudes, learned behaviors, changes over time, varies by culture, ethnicity, religion, etc. So why gender is socially constructed? Because society has construct the roles for man and women. Before the birth of a male and before the birth of a female, for example, those roles have already set for the male and for the female, because society has taught the behavior of male and female. For example, we are studied and we are taught that a girl should sit like that, a boy should sit like that, a girl should be docile, girl should be meek, and she should behave in a certain manner, a boy should behave in a certain manner, boys cannot cry. So why? Society has constructed all these things to show the male chauvinism and male superiority. So there are acceptable roles and attitudes, learned behavior, as we were discussing, changes over time, varies by culture, ethnicity and religion. So gender is also culturally structured, because there are different culture for example, there is a Punjabi culture, there is a Marathi culture, there are other cultures. All culture are there are all set of rules for every culture, and the rules for that is culturally constructed for male and female, and there are ethnicity and the religion wise. So it is totally socially constructed roles for male and females. So what are the key terms for that? Is gender equality, gender equity, gender discrimination, constructive men's engagement, and gender there are also gender roles. So gender roles for man, and for example political leaders, and women is follower, and women are not same. For example, other differences: age, ethnicity, religion, education, language, class, disability. So what are the issues traditionally for female, traditional and stereotypical, soft versus hard issues. So these are things that are related to female and male. So gender refers to the attitudes, feelings, behaviors that a given culture associate with the person's biological sex. So the concept of gender helps to study the difference in behavior between man and woman, and to analyze the basis of these differences as basically biological or social constructions by the society. So as this slide is highlighting, sex versus gender. What is sex? We have already discussed. What is gender? We have discussed. But now the roles are confined to male and female. So gender is culturally defined for female, gender is culturally defined for male. So, for female, there are roles and responsibilities. For example, caring jobs, attributes, fragile and emotional, entitlements, inferior health care to man, financial dependence. So, sex is only a biological difference. Gender is culturally defined. For male is roles and responsibilities, that is culturally defense, construction and defense, attributes, that is risk taking, aggression, entitlements, higher workforce, participation, financial autonomy. So, gender is culturally constructed for female is roles and responsibilities. So, we can see that there are different roles and responsibilities for female. Why? Why a female cannot be defensive? Why a female cannot be risk taking? Why a female cannot be financially independent? And why all these things are related to a female as caring, serving jobs, fragile, emotional, entitlements, inferior healthcare to men, financially independent. So why these differences is there between male and female? So these differences has created by a male dominated society and the conventions and the traditions and the different societies and different culture and different region and religion. So gender is a social construction. No doubt gender is a social cultural construction with a little to do with one's body. So but it involves all the aspects of society, especially language, which works in the favor of certain subjects and excludes others. So that is why the bias is so deeply seeped in the roots of the society, because whenever women start talking about themselves, they have to do so by using a language which is dominated by heteropatriarchal ideology. French feminists were particularly concerned with the linguistic, philosophical, psychological manipulation of social order by patriarchy and how it can be rescued from there. So the female I does not exist in language. Therefore, when women says I, she is temporarily talking from the position of a man. So how then can a woman speak? So in answer to that, the question came ideas about a uniquely feminine writing that could defy the masculine linguistic code. Gender socialization. Gender socialization refers to the learning of socially approved behaviors, gender norms, values, and attitudes that have been associated with the biological sex. How? For example, children observe and imitate what is modeled before them with regard to how the genders are supposed to act. Gender socialization starts in early childhood and occurs through the education system, in the family unit, through socialization with peers enforced by people of authority, and learned from consuming mass media. Example, gender toys, observing parents, gender career paths, gender roles in movies, Gender roles in advertising, gendered hobbies. So we can say gendered toys. So there are different toys for a girl and a different toy for a boy. So who has created this trend that the house is for a male, female, and kitchen set is for a female, and the horse, the toy dog is for a male. So this is the mindset of a patriarchal society. Observing parents, so the children observe their parents, how they behave, how they talk, how they behave in the society, and gender career paths. So we can say there are different gender career paths for boys and girls. So especially in the society, mostly the teachers are female. The females prefer teaching jobs because of the mental setup. And gender roles in the movies, you can say the cinema, what cinema is doing, they are presenting the wrong picture of a female. For example, female is inferior and female is dependent, and she is submissive, and all the roles and all the submissive roles are imposing on the female. So gender roles in advertising, gender hobbies. So there are different hobbies. Hobbies are categorized for male and female. So in this way, you can say that gender is totally socialized. It's a socialization of a gender by the patriarchy, by the culture, by the region, by the religion. As the French writer, intellectual, existentialist, philosopher, political activist, feminist, and social theorist Simone de Beauvoir has rightly said that one is not born a woman but rather becomes a woman. So this definition, this quote is purely defines that a woman is not a woman but rather becomes a woman. So no biological and psychological or economic fate determines the figure that the human females present in the society. It is civilization as whole that produces this creature intermediate between male and which is described as feminine. So patriarchy. So patriarchy plays a prominent role to project and to show the female inferiority, to impose all the things and all the roles on female. So patriarchy, a system in which men are dominant over women. Sexism, a set of beliefs, attitudes, norms, and values used to justify gender inequality. This ideology has been used to justify man's leadership and power position in the economy, social and political spheres of society. Language and gender. So in 1975, Robin Lakoff defined a women's register means women's language, which she argued served to maintain women's inferior role in society. Lakoff argued that women tend to use linguistic forms that reflect and reinforce a subordinate role. These include tag questions, annotations, and weak directives, among others. Traditionally and right away from the ancient days, India was a male-dominated culture. Indian women were covered with many thick layers of prejudice, conventions, ignorance, and practice in literature as well as in life. They were inanimate objects who followed 5 paces behind their men. They had to be gentle, patient, gracious, and for generations to. So the term feminism in India refers to a set of movements intending to define, establish, and defend equal political, economic, and social rights and equal opportunities for Indian women. Now comes essentialist versus anti-essentialist ideology. There is no denying the fact that man and women have some biological differences by nature, but it is life experience that reinforces or contradicts those differences. The truth lies in differential socialization, which claims the male and female are taught different appropriate behaviors for their gender. This can be overcome only when children would not be educated in keeping with some gender restrictions, but more likely encouraged to experiment and handle a variety of situations. As far as the equality motive is concerned, feminists have a long argument which divide them into essentialist and anti-essentialist. All the differences for them are socially and culturally constructed. Once this nature of construction of male and female binary is learnt or preserved, all differences will result into nothingness, and an ideal state of equality can be achieved automatically. Such as equality would not be about political or legal rights. Anti-essentialists argued that instead of seeking equality, feminists or activists should reconsider or rethink about the subject position of women as they have assumed while asserting their rights. So what it means that there is no predetermined, stable and fixed subject for whom the feminists are seeking emancipation. So the subject here is subject in process, as Butler called it, described it as subject in process that is constructed in discourse by the act it performs. So the conclusion is the subordination of females in India is less physical and more psychological, and hence the patriarchal hold is hegemonic. Women should be considered individuals and not to be categorized as goddess or witches, and fairy tale should be exchanged with the Indian saga of goddess Durga, goddess Kali or goddess Parvati to make the children believe that every gender is powerful. Equality. Gender neutral games should be performed. Reservation should be regulated for Dalit females and sex workers. Cinema should promote the ideas of self-dependence of females. So this is all about the gender equality, gender bias and gender discrimination. Thank you.